Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 415 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have a small crew here this week. Richard couldn't make it today. He'll be back next week, which means today I am joined by Krim, probably better known as the Asian Avenger. How are you this morning, Krim?
Morning. I am awake. So, yeah.
Hey, that's
I'm
good.
doing pretty good.
Have you ever tried podcasting in your sleep? That would be the ultimate win for you, Krim. If you could find a way to do that, your life would be so good.
Once I figure out how to get my conscious and whole brain uploaded onto, I guess, the internet, then I will do that.
So we stayed together in Vegas. We shared a room. Didn't you say I was kind of like podcasting in my sleep? I think the first day, the next morning I woke up and you're like, dude, I think you were like doing your video intro in your sleep or something.
Yeah, no, legitimately, Seth practices his video intro like in his sleep. Like, it sounds like he's just saying, hi, like, my name's Saffron Olive. And I'm just like, what are you saying? I thought you were talking to me. So that was
just sleeping.
Yeah, you were just sleeping, and I was like, wow, we just had a full blown conversation, and it was one sided. All right.
Anyway, for today, we're going to be jumping around a little bit topic-wise. No spoilers yet, at least no official spoilers, but we wanted to talk about some big leaks coming out of Phyrexia. Don't worry, we're not getting into individual cards, but kind of the why of the leaks, what's going on with the leaks, what we think about them. There's been some Hasbro news, canceling video game projects, also a big uproar in the D&D community. Wanted to talk about that, see if any of that maybe applies to Magic. There was some stuff about Unfinity and how well that did that we wanted to get into. And then we want to talk a little bit about just various formats. Heading into 2023, this new year of Magic, how are we feeling about formats? Are they trending up or down and so forth? And then answering your fish mail, of course. So that is the plan for today's cast. Before we get into all that, a reminder that today's show is brought to you by Card Conduit. And Card Conduit, they're the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. If you're tired of all the hassles that go into buy listing your cards, well, Card Conduit lets you skip them. You don't have to do the typing and spend the time and do all the work. With their curated service, you can send in as many cards as you want with a buy list value of $1 or more and pay just a 5% service fee. And if you want to put in a little bit of effort out of your end, you can use their sorted service where you list and sort your cards ahead of time and pay just a 2% fee. And no matter which one you choose, you're going to get a detailed report with their results and a fast payment once the order is processed. And right now, you can even get another 10% off by heading over to cardconduit.com/mtggoldfish. Card Conduit, they're the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. So thanks so much to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And let's talk some Magic. And let's start with what has been, I think, the biggest news of the last couple of days, which is Phyrexia All Will Be One kind of leaking a ton. I think at this point, I believe everywhere, or maybe everywhere -1, has actually been leaked at this point. Mythics haven't seen as many of those, and apparently what's happening with this, I don't know if you kept up on this, Grim, apparently what's happening is people are opening Dominaria Remastered packs, and in those packs, some of them, they're just getting Phyrexia rares showing up in those packs, and this is like not just one person or something, this is happening apparently all over. You see some videos on YouTube of people like, hey, we're doing a DMR draft at our local game store. Wait, why is there a Phyrexia rare in my pack? So it's been pretty interesting. Krim, what do you think about this huge leak? This is one of the biggest ones we've seen in quite a while, honestly.
Yeah, like we're talking like what is that, like 30 some cards, it feels like. I don't know, it feels maybe even more.
I think we're up to 59 of the 60 rares have come out this way so far.
I mean, talk about a way that could potentially let down numerous parties here. We're talking about, like, if I'm opening a Dominaria Mastered or United pack, and then I instead get, hoping to get something from that set. Instead, I get what is this, a fake card? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on here?
Really?
Right? But yeah, like, legitimately, it's kind of weird. Like, why? And, dude, like, a whole, we're talking about like a whole set before we're even in spoiler season almost. Like, okay, maybe not a whole set, but a good chunk of it. Like 20% of a set is already out.
So, yeah, it seems like the best that I can figure is we haven't seen any mythics and we haven't seen commons and uncommons. So it seems like what happened somehow is some rare sheets from Phyrexia ended up getting mixed in with Dominaria Remastered, wherever they're like printing and packaging all this. So it seems like that's what happened. I'm curious, Krim. Do you consider this a leak? Like, when it comes to leaks in Magic, it's very interesting. When someone, like, steals a sheet from the factory and posts it on Reddit, or you got stuff like that going on, that's pretty clearly, like, a traditional leak, like you would have in, like, government or whatever, WikiLeaks, any of that kind of stuff. Like, it's a leak like that. When it just kind of happens because people are opening boosters and someone put the wrong cards in the packs, I don't know. For some reason, it feels kind of different to me compared to some of those sketchier leaks. What do you think about that?
I mean, it's still a leak, right? I would still consider it a leak, even if this were planned, right? Like unless like WotC actually speaks up and says that, yo, like, here it is, early spoiler, or early preview into the new set, I'm gonna consider it a leak.
Could it be planned? I know that's something a lot of people have brought up is like Wizards is, we'll get to this later with D&D. Wizards is, or Hasbro's kind of getting hammered right now because of some D&D stuff. And this always, every time this happens, people always bring this up. Is there any chance they were like, wow, like we need to change the topic of conversation right now. Let's, accidentally leak some cards and everyone will talk about that instead of talking about D&D problems or whatever.
I feel like that's almost too masterful for like too well planned. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Or I don't know. I mean, I feel like that's a tinfoil hat. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe it is. Like, and even if it were, like, dude, do a better job then, because, like, again, like, we talked about this before on previous leaks because this happens so much. Why does every leak look like someone took a photo with their, like, Motorola Razr phone from 2003? Like why? Why can't it just, like, just make it look good, please?
Oh, yeah, leaks always got the potato camera. At this point, that's kind of a tradition with Magic leaks. I think, for me, it's really unlikely that this leak was intentional, because of the way that it's coming out, like in booster packs of Dominaria Remastered. I don't think Wizards had any way of knowing there was going to be like D&D controversy going on right now. And you got to print and pack these like ahead of time. It's not like they just printed these and now people are drafting them at their LGS. This had to have been like weeks or months ago. I think it's possible that sometimes Wizards does that. Sometimes you see like one random card pops up from some like, anonymous Reddit account, and it's just a single card. I could see some of those if Wizards wanted to, being like, kind of guerrilla marketing or whatever. But I think this is just a mistake. Like, my guess is Wizards is trying to print a lot of products. That's something we've talked about a lot, which means the printer has all these different sets coming in and it's trying to like keep everything organized, and they got mixed up. Basically, they put some of the wrong sheets into the wrong product, which seems like a pretty straightforward and easy explanation. So that would be my guess as to what happened here.
Yeah, I mean, didn't we have Elish Norn, or was that Elish Norn fake? There was an Elish Norn way back, right?
There was a fake one. It wasn't the right Elish Norn, but there was like a quote unquote leak around the time that we did Vegas, I think. But that was actually just a fake one, yeah. Man. So, do you think does having essentially all the rares from the set leak, does it do anything to your hype level? Or how do you handle these personally, Krim? We know that's always the other big conversation in the community. Something leaks, what do you do? Do you look? Do you not look? Do you talk about it? Do you not? How do you personally handle stuff like this? Do you look? Are you a looker when it comes to leaks?
I take I've been known to dabble, and because in peeking, but mostly just because I myself don't really like seeing these things, much like watching a movie or reading a book or whatever, right? Knowing the ending, seeing some of the stuff doesn't change the hype for me. So I'm pretty hyped all around anyways. The one thing I try not to do, because we both stream, we both do all of that, is I try not to talk about it. Because I'm not going to decide that for somebody. So like if somebody wants to explore spoiler season with content creators, go along with the community, they can, right? So I like when it comes to streams, stuff like that, I try not to like talk about it in the chat or through the stream, or have talk about it much on Twitter. So I just keep it all to myself. And if you want to look at it, I think I just it's like whatever, right? Like look at it amongst yourselves and talk about it amongst yourselves in private.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think for me, I just try to let people opt out if they don't want to. That was one of the things I think, especially on Twitter, like if you just tweet a card image, it's really hard for people to avoid that, because if they follow you, it's just going to pop up in their feed. So that's something I've learned over time, is to be careful with that, because there are some people that, because of how they interact with Magic, maybe they are really huge into the Vorthos thing or whatever. And for them, like having the cards spoiled in a specific order that goes along with the story, that's like really meaningful to them. So we want to, I think for me, I want to respect those people. And I want to make sure that those people can engage with the set in the way they want to. At the same time, like I usually end up talking about them on stream. I just give people like a warning, like, hey, some cards popped up on Reddit. This seems like they're leaks. We're going to talk about them. If you don't want to see this, come back in 5 minutes or whatever, and give people the fair warning. So for me, I think it's just really important to give people the ability to opt out, which I think is the main reason we're not going to talk about individual cards during today's podcast. Plus, with leaks, these ones seem very, very likely to be real, just because of the whole story of how the leaks are coming out. But again, you never know. Like there are times when stuff is a leak, quote unquote, and it ends up being a fake card, like that Elish Norn a while ago. So
what if like all 30 or whatever 50 of these cards are just fake and none of these exist right now?
Could you imagine if that would be sweet if Wizards did that? If they like fake leak the entire set and then we go to preview season and it's all different cards. Oh, that would be so sweet. I will say there is one cycle of cards I did want to mention, and I think this is fine because it's reprints anyway. But the leak suggests that the Allied Fast lands from Scars of Mirrodin are coming back, and I think those are relevant to know about just because of financial stuff. Like they're coming to Pioneer for the first time. Some of them are pretty expensive. So keep that in mind as you're managing your collection, considering what you're going to buy and sell or trade or whatever. That does seem pretty relevant. So any
for
thoughts on those, Grim?
For those that don't know or may not know, Allied is Blackcleave Cliffs and stuff like that.
Coast,
Dark Slick Shores,
Razor Verge Thicket, yeah, those ones.
Okay, yeah, I mean, like this, like, I mean, outside of that, like, I guess we're gonna delve lightly into the spoilers. Yeah, like these lands hitting Pioneer is gonna be pretty cool. Not that any of it matters because Nykthos exists and I hate that card anyways. But yeah, like, these lands are gonna be here too. So whatever color pairing you want, you can lose to mono green with it. Except for maybe Rakdos. Rakdos might be able to help you beat that miserable deck.
Just keep that in mind as you're making your decisions. If you want to see more about leaks, I think as you're losing to Nykthos, I think the main Magic Reddit, r/MagicTCG, if you head over there and look around, you're going to be able to find them without any issue if that's something that is interesting to you. So any other thoughts about the leak stuff, Krim, before we move on to some other topics?
Again, seriously, please, if you're going to leak, I know you don't have a potato for a camera. I don't know where this found footage thing has to exist. Like this isn't the Blair Witch Project MTG edition. Stop. Just take a photo with like if you're gonna leak it like and make it look like relatively like readable. Like where are these glares coming from? Why is half a card halfway in the photo? You know what I mean? Like, dude.
You know they got a good phone. Either my grandparents are the people leaking these cards with their flip phones, or the people have a good phone and they're like pulling some flip phone out of their closet just for their leak photos.
It's just like, like one of the like a break just in case kind of situation. Yeah. They break out the leak camera and they're ready. 1 FPS photo, like one for like small 4 resolution photo.
All right, let's move on to another topic that I'm curious about. I'm curious, you probably might know more about this than I do. So part of the news this week, Krim, is that Wizards is canceling some video game projects. One trend for Wizards in the recent years is that they've been trying to branch out and make a bunch of other digital games. Some of them are kind of successful, others hear about and then kind of fade away. But it sounds like there were at least five video game projects that were canceled recently as Wizards, quote unquote, scales back their ambitions in the video game industry. So this isn't Magic Arena being canceled or anything like that. These are games that we've probably never even heard of. What do you think about this, Krim? Is this just like business as usual for a big company and some stuff gets cut? Or should we be expecting less video games from Wizards moving forward as a result of this?
I mean, I think these games were the D&D games, right?
Probably. I don't think they ever specified, but probably. They didn't say they were Magic games, so it's very possible that at least many of them were D&D focused.
Right, because when you're thinking about Magic games, we're talking like Magic, Legends, all the games like that, and those are the only ones I can think of, and most of those have already, I think, hit the axe and got hit by the axe anyways. But yeah, it looks like these games were because of Dark Alliance was received poorly. And so I mean okay, regardless of whether it's D&D or Magic though, this does make me a little concerned, only because the hopes of the one thing I've always advocated for and talked about a lot on the podcast and through whether this one or the Commander one or on my Twitch channel, whatever, all of it is I want to be able to enjoy the world that is Magic. Right, and that includes when I'm not playing the card game. I want to be able to enjoy it, just like how League of Legends allows you to play Teamfight Tactics. You have all that League world, Runeterra. It's still there. And if things are getting cut and things are getting axed, this leads me to being worried that they are less likely to take opportunities, to take a shot at building a game that could be something that's explosive, right? Because it's always these games that are just randomly out of nowhere. One of them, they throw darts and eventually one of them works.
Yeah.
And now if they're concerned about that because it's a huge loss in when it comes to profits and stuff like that, they're less likely to do it. And that does concern me because if they're not willing to do it with D&D, right? They're axing D&D games and whatnot. There ain't no way they're going to try that with Magic, right?
Yeah, that's the part that worries me a little bit too. It's funny when you look at Hasbro, they're this big old toy company that has Play-Doh and things like that. I would think that in 2023 they would want to be focusing more and more on things like video games. That's kind of where the world's at, I think, more so than a lot of the other older products, Monopoly, let's say, and things like that. So it's a little scary to me that they seem to be shying away from modern games and entertainment products like video games and are probably doubling down on this old school stuff when I would rather see them go the other direction. Yes, they've made some really bad Magic games, but the way you make a good one is to keep trying. When you start off making content, you're going to make some bad videos, but eventually as you keep doing it, you're going to start making better videos and people are going to like them. So I'm a little nervous that we're not going to see, like you said, Wizards taking more chances in this space anymore. I don't think they're going to cancel Magic Arena or anything like that. Or I think Baldur's Gate is another one that they pretty much said that one's still going because that's a pretty popular one. But these smaller side games, I don't think we're going to see them as much anymore as a result of this, which is a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, because again, one of these will eventually stick, I hope.
Yeah.
But I guess we're less likely to have it, so I don't know.
Well, speaking of Wizards and D&D, the other huge topic this week has been some D&D changes. I don't know, do you follow D&D at all, Krim?
I played one of my first campaigns with Vince.
Oh.
And it was for funsies. So I would say I've got maybe about 2 campaigns underneath me, and one of them is the out of box thing from Target, and the second one was with Vince. So I had a really good time. And I follow a little bit what goes on. There's the movie that's coming out this year. I follow a little bit of the IP, just seeing it lurking around and whatnot. But yeah, it's a great world. Just wish I had a more dedicated group for it.
Yeah, I guess we follow D&D about the same. I've done a couple of adventures. Tomer did one on the YouTube a while ago. So that's about all the D&D I've really played. I think this topic is very interesting, though. So Dungeons and Dragons, and if you're a huge D&D fan, and I messed this up because I'm not the biggest fan, my apologies. I'm just going to try to explain it the best I can. Dungeons and Dragons has something called an open gaming license, which allows independent companies or people to publish content based on the rules of D&D. So Tomer's done this. Tomer's a very small scale example, or Joe, who does This Week in Legacy, where you can take and be like, okay, within the D&D rules system, I'm going to take and make my own adventure. Tomer made like an Innistrad adventure that we actually played on the YouTube channel. So this is something that the open gaming license allowed. Like, you can take and just make your own content, your own books, your own characters based on the rules system that is D&D. This has been around since 2000 or something, so like 23 years. But now, just in the last week or so, Wizards announced that they're going to be changing this and essentially getting rid of this open gaming license and switching to a new license that gives Wizards a lot more control, essentially. Like, if Tomer makes a D&D adventure, he'll have to report that to Wizards, and they'll have to approve it. And then there's also some stuff that I think is targeted at really big D&D content, like Critical Role or Pathfinder is another game that kind of sprung off of D&D through this open game license. But if you make a bunch of money off of your product that's attached to D&D, Wizards now wants a cut of that, which is something that's been different in the past. In the past, you could do your own thing, and if you sell it and make a bunch of money, then good for you. Now Wizards wants a 25% cut if you make more than $750,000 in a year off of your D&D stuff, which I guess only impact like 20-ish creators, so a pretty small number, but still a really, really huge change. So the D&D community has been freaking out about this because apparently when they made the original open gaming license, they basically said this is going to last forever, and even if you make another one, you can keep using this one, so this is not going to ever change. And now it's changing. As a Magic player, Krem, what do you think about this? Is this one of those situations where you're like, hey, welcome to our world, D&D players. We've been dealing with some of this stuff for a while, or I don't know. What is your take on the open gaming license stuff?
This could be scary, right? Like, I mean, hold on. So let me get this straight. They get a cut of it depending on how well depending how what performs.
Basically,
like, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So yes. Okay. Cool. So pretty much that's pretty scary, right? And that's specifically tied to D&D, though, right?
This is specifically tied to D&D. So this doesn't at this point directly impact Magic in any way that we know of. Oh, that's one of the things I was wanting to ask you about. Like, should we as Magic people be scared of this at all? Even though it doesn't directly impact us at this point?
I mean, at some point, it does. Like it could, right? Because, like, I don't know. I mean, why wouldn't they want to take a cut of how, like, content or something performs, right?
I mean, when it comes down to it, like, look at Goldfish, or really any Magic, really EDH Rec, name a popular Magic site. Like, the card images are Wizards IP technically. Like, Wizards owns those, and they allow everyone to use those. But technically, I think Wizards, if they wanted to, probably could make a stink about that and be like, well, you're using our characters, you know, on your website, so we need a percentage of that or whatever.
Yeah, like. I guess I just don't see why they wouldn't eventually try to do that for Magic, right? Because, like,
yeah,
and so yeah, I think this is a concern because, I mean, if they're willing to do that to D&D, right? Isn't Magic one of their better performing IPs?
That's basically Magic and D&D, and I think Magic actually makes more money than D&D at this point, even though I think D&D might have like more players overall or something. But yeah, they're equally important, I think, to Wizards.
If they're equal, I mean, then eventually this just happens to Magic, right? I just don't see why it wouldn't. Yeah. I don't want it to, but like, right? Like, it just eventually happens.
Yeah, it would be if that did happen. And right now, the D&D community is really pushing back on this, and we'll see what ends up happening. Wizards was supposed to make a statement a couple days ago, but that hasn't come out yet. So the D&D community, I've been watching some content on this and keeping up on it, seems to be hoping that their negative response towards this when it first came out might get Wizards to change their mind. We'll see if that actually ends up working or not. So we'll see. Maybe Wizards, because of this huge negative response where a lot of big D&D creators are basically saying, like, I can't do D&D anymore because of this. I won't be able to make a living doing this anymore. So I'm going to switch to a different game, or I'm not going to, I can't do it. I just can't do it anymore. It would be like, could you imagine in the Magic world, like, I imagine this would hit like game nights or Prof or someone,
Right.
some of the biggest, like most well-known content producers. If Wizards went to them and was like, hey, guess what? We want 25% of your profits now. Oh, that would not go over very well, I don't think. If you're, some very big creator who's been dedicating your life to this over the course of years or decades in some cases.
Right. Like, dude, how does that? Yeah, like that's terrifying. But also, oh man,
It's
what
also,
is that supposed to go into effect?
So apparently it was supposed to go into effect like now, but then the document, the new license came out, and there's been this huge backlash from the community, and Wizards has been quiet about it. So the date actually passed when it was initially supposed to go into effect without Wizards actually addressing it at all. So now it's kind of in this state of flux where the community is hoping that because of this backlash, Wizards is maybe going to reverse course. And Wizards, as of yesterday, hadn't actually said anything or addressed it in any way. So it's just kind of floating in the ether right now in this weird gray area.
Well, okay. Jeez.
Yeah, definitely interesting. So the other funny thing that stuck out to me as a Magic player is the open gaming license was essentially a promise from Wizards 25 years ago saying like, this is how we manage the content. You're free to make content and monetize it and do all this stuff. And this is going to last forever. This promise, they seem to be okay with changing after 25 years, but the reserve list, a promise from 25 years ago was like, no, we're never changing that one. So I thought it was kind of funny how Wizards picks and chooses which promises to stand behind 25 years later.
Oh boy.
But yeah, if you know more about this D&D thing, definitely let me know, because I've been trying to keep track of it. But like I said, I'm not hugely into the D&D community, so I would love to hear if you're a D&D player, like, what are you thinking about this? If you're a D&D content creator, how big of an impact is this on your community? So if you're watching this someplace with comments, definitely let us know, because I'm very interested in this situation. So. All right, let's get back to more Magic-specific stuff. So, Crim. Unfinity came out 6-ish months ago now, maybe less than that. Beginning of October, I want to say, so like 4 months. There's been some questions to Mark Rosewater about how well the set did on his blog, and based on Mark Rosewater's responses, it sounds like it didn't actually do that well, at least immediately. He did say that unsets tend to sell for longer, so even though it didn't have a super good release as far as sales, maybe the sales will keep coming in. And he specifically called out stickers as being one of the biggest issues with the set as far as why it hasn't been received well. And apparently unsets are now ifs rather than whens as far as making another one. So it seems like this one has put it up in the air whether we'll see another one. Does any of this surprise you, Crib? The unset not doing well, and where do we go from here with unsets?
I mean, it's hard to like push an unset, because it's like, why would I even if they tried, putting the space lands and then on top of that mixing in the non-acorn, the acorn, it's hard just pushing prank sets at like regular price.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And I think that's the main thing. If you were going to do this, I think you got to do it to where it's like, like a half off thing. Like if boosters are normally like $3.99, this has got to be a $2 booster. Boxes, like 30% cut from whatever it is, because this is a, like, unfortunately that means that, like maybe print run is going to be all weird and paper and foiling is going to be all miserable, or maybe that was already going to happen anyways, no matter the price. But like, like the thing is, it's just hard to push these kind of things and have the community kind of like care. Cause like you definitely lose half of the community, I think, or maybe a little under. I thought the set was enjoyable, although it was like really fun to draft with friends. It was like extremely wordy and really hard, because like I drafted it again with friends, after Vegas, and it was still fun. It was just hard to like there's cards that are open interpretations. There's things that are just like, it's like, it seems like it's all subjective and when it comes to ruling. And yeah, like it's meant to be like a meme of a time, but yeah, like that kind of stuff's just hard to sell to like the entire Magic community.
I think you really nailed it. I would much rather see the next unset to not have the lottery shocklands or whatever and be half the price. So you can just buy this on the cheap to have like, here's a fun, weird experience with my play group. I picked up this $50 box or whatever, $60 box, $70 box, this cheap box of Unfinity, and we're going to do this wacky draft. And like, sure, the cards aren't going anywhere, but that's, I'm not going to put them in my competitive decks or whatever, but I'm going to have this fun experience. If you had it like that, I think it could be a pretty successful like novelty product, essentially, where, hey, this is something different for our play group to do. Everyone pitch in $10, we'll get a box, we'll do a draft, it'll be a fun night with the play group. So I would much rather see it go that direction, I think, rather than trying to like make it more black bordered and add high value stuff to get people to buy it for the normal price. Maybe like cut that stuff and try to sell it as cheap as possible just so people can actually draft it. Because like you, I had fun when we drafted it. I don't think I would draft it over and over and over again. I think it would get old after a while, but it's like a one-time thing or 2 or 3 times. It is a really unique, fun format. So I would actually be sad if we didn't get unsets anymore because of the reception to Unfinity, because they do something unique in the Magic world that we just don't really get in other sets. I will say the sticker thing was kind of a mess. I think when they announced stickers,
literally a mess, by the way.
Literally a mess. When they announced them, players were like, how is this going to work? Are they going to stick well enough? Wizards said, oh, they should be reusable. And in the end, even just in the one draft we did, by the end of the draft, like stickers, they definitely wouldn't go back on the sticker card. You definitely couldn't use them again in another draft. Like that just really wasn't happening. So I wonder if they had done like counters or something instead, like those punch out counters or something. I wonder if that would have solved some of that issue, because I do think we learned that stickers they don't go well with Magic cards.
They really don't, and like depending on what kind of surface they're sticking on, like whether it's the sleeve or the actual card, some of them did tear parts of like the card off, which like obviously isn't great. But yeah, like it was a little unfortunate because like again, I was like, okay, maybe it's the one-off time we draft and then whatnot. But then the next draft, it's the same thing. It's like, where'd my sticker go? I have no idea. Especially the name stickers, right? The name stickers that I have no idea where they go. It's mostly just the replayability of the stickers. I like them. I thought they were funny, and I thought it was like fun gameplay. But like reusing them and going to the next game might be one of the hardest things. So the concept is cool. Like the idea of how they wanted stickers to play with like changing the name of things or like adding stuff to things, adding power and toughness. It was a really cool idea. I think the problem is mostly just execution. I think just like the actual physical aspects of like, you got to make it sticky enough that it works, but you can't make it too sticky that it's going to destroy people's cards or then people are going to get mad about that. That is it just might not be possible, I guess, to make him a sticker mechanic in Magic that hits all those marks. I don't think. All right, we got one more big topic I want to bring up, Krim, before we answer some fish mail in a bit. So we are heading into 2023, new year of Magic, and I want to just see kind of where we're at with some of the formats that we play most often. Like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling about the format? And compared to a year ago, do you think that format's been trending up, trending down, staying even? So let's start with the big one, Standard. Krim, right now, January 2023, where are you at with Standard Magic: The Gathering? And we're talking about just in terms of how much I play it?
Play it, enjoy it.
Okay.
Yeah, how you feel about it.
I thoroughly enjoy it. Just literally last night, I played my Bant Super Friends deck, or Broker Super Friends deck, right? So I play my Super Friends deck, which is already a little, not exactly, with Urza assembles the Titans and all this other stuff.
Ooh,
it's not exactly tier, right? Per the usual for us, Seth, I would say that we don't exactly play the tier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, this will be fine. And I get paired up against a Naya deck. I'm like, okay, so this is like what, mid-range or maybe tokens? I got paired against Naya Ninjutsu. and
What?
I got blown out by a Kappa Tech wreckage, and I was like, oh, I was not ready for that. So
So good.
like so if someone tries to tell you that like Standard isn't all over the place right now, like I can't, I'm not going to deny it. Standard's everywhere, or like all over the place. It's the wild, wild west. You have a Reanimator deck. You have big mana decks. You have obviously the black-based mid-range decks that are obviously strong and powerful. You have Control. You have Red deck. You have everything across the board. You even have Soldiers showing up a decent amount. So, and like in like best of 3, same deal. Like you have like Rakdos, you have Mardu Angels, you have, the same deals, like just bouncing around all over the place. Esper midrange. So I am like, Standard has been a really good time. I think people's like just overall like, fatigue on Standard might be high. But like if you sit down and actually think about it, Standard has been pretty darn fun. Yeah, there's some key cards, obviously, yes. Not Elish Norn. Shealdred is a centerpiece. Fable's a centerpiece, and Wedding Announcement. Right, those are like the 3 things that you're gonna see a fair amount, and then Invoke Despair. But like just recently, like there was a video that I put out, which was like the Jeskai deck, right? It's like using Skitter Beam, whatever. So like it. There's stuff from Brothers War taking its place into the meta too. So I can't help but say I love Standard. It's really fun right now.
Yeah, I also enjoy Standard. I do think it has improved recently and it gotten more diverse than it was a few months ago when it was literally just all black decks. We see more stuff starting to like filter its way in, and the games are just really interesting and fun. So I don't think Standard's perfect or anything, but I would say Standard's like definitely a 7, maybe 6.5, 7. Like it is a solidly above average Standard. And I will say it has definitely been trending in the right direction compared to a year ago. A year ago at this time, it was like Alrund's Epiphany, Goldspan Dragon, a mono green with Ranger class snowballing you. Like the Standard today is so much better. Sure, as you said, you got to deal with Fable, you got to deal with Shealdred, these handful of really strong cards, but I would much rather deal with Shealdred being the best card in the format than Goldspan Dragon, come down, make a treasure, use the treasure, counter your thing, do it again, or Elrond's Epiphany, chain it together, take all the turrets.
Stop.
It's just so much better than it was. So I think that Standard is a format that maybe has improved the most in the past year for me. Like, I think it's in a not greatest of all time space or anything right now, but it's in a solidly above average space and actually still really fun, and probably going to keep getting more diverse as we get new sets and we get Phyrexia and all this stuff. I think that's going to give us more powerful cards that'll hopefully keep making the format even better. Yeah,
I mean, like, it is easily the most improved set, I think, format in quite some time, right? Like, and I find myself now going, I jam Pioneer, I jam Explorer, I can't get away from Nykthos, and so I just like, for my sanity, I can get away from that miserable card, and I can go to Standard, and like I think Standard just feels good, and it's kind of hard to imagine because we've had bad Standard for quite some time, and like you said, this isn't like oh my god, Con Standard or maybe War of the Spark Standard, but it is good.
It's solid. It is a solidly above average Standard, and it's been I feel like it's been quite a while since I've felt that way about Standard. I'm so used to, Standard, it's not great, or it's horrible. So it's nice to be able to say, like, Standard's actually pretty good. And if anything, the main problem with Standard is just not enough people play it. Like, the biggest problem with Standard is maybe in part because of the pandemic, or maybe people getting burnt out by the bad standards, but it's just not a thing as much, especially in paper, as it used to be. So if you're on the fence, give it a chance, because the format's actually pretty sweet right now.
Yeah, like that's the only thing. It's so wild to me that like in the year 2020, like 2 or 23, whatever year we're in now, like that we have Standard events that just don't fire at stores, right? People like most stores now just axe Standard as a whole in paper.
Yeah, it's just gone.
So weird to me.
Well, let's move on. You mentioned playing Standard to avoid Nykthos and Explorer and Pioneer. Where are you at with the Explorer / Pioneer? Let's lump them together because they're pretty similar. Well,
Yeah.
where are you at with these formats, Grim?
Pioneer and Diet Pioneer. Like these two formats. Like, okay, so we're probably gonna get to it because it's a format. Modern. I've kind of like fallen out of love in that. Love with that format, and I'm gonna go into that after once we talk about it. But like Pioneer and Explorer is kind of taking that spot for me now, where I once loved Modern. That's me in Pioneer now. And that's just natural because, like the absurdity that goes on with more cards over time, like, things just get run wild for a lot more. And I'm really liking Pioneer. I think it's fun. I'm really liking Explorer all the same. It's just hopefully they can right the wrongs right now and like before it becomes too miserable a format and we're not even that far into it. I genuinely think Nykthos is miserable. And the more that like just things that you're churning out every year, the more reason why I hate Nykthos. Everyone can point at Karn. Everyone can point at, Kiora, whatever they want to point at. They can point at Eugene, Storm the Festival. It doesn't matter because it's the biggest thing is the enabler. The enabler is the problem. And that card ruins the format for me. And that's it. I will simply state that. I like the format. I like it better than where it was. Like Pioneer was really bad at a point where they just didn't care what happened and they didn't aggressively ban.
Oh yeah.
But like, and now that it's back, right? Pioneer was on life support, and now it's back, and it's gotten so much love. It's got tournament support, so it is another really improved format. But the longer they let Nykthos happen, I don't know.
Let me ask you about Nykthos. Is your dislike of Nykthos based solely on the green deck, or do you dislike it in other Nykthos decks as well? Or is it just that green is so good, like that deck in specific is the one that is a problem?
I do think that green does it the best, yes.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I went through a whole week and trying to figure out, well, how busted is Nykthos in every other color? Mono black has its uses. The worst one is probably mono white.
Yeah.
And then yeah, like, cause what are you gonna do? Gain more life or something? I don't know.
Mono blue is fun. Like, I never win with mono blue devotion, but it does do cool things as you lose.
yeah, you're gonna lose, but you're gonna do some sick things, right? Like, but mono green is just the thing that was keeping green in check was that their costs, right? In competitive format, they're like, their costs. It doesn't matter if I'm getting a turn 3 Cavalier, dude, that's pretty good. And then you're turn 4ing into like Storm the Festivals. Yeah, Karn seems powerful when he's doing everything ahead of curve, right? Like, sure. So like any good Magic card that is costed whatever, doing it way ahead of the curve is going to be absurdly cracked, and mono green does that. So yeah, it is. I am tired of it because of that, and I don't know what you do to stop Rakdos, because again, I don't think any one card in Rakdos is problematic.
Yeah, that's a hard part. Like, what do you actually ban out of that deck if it did get to that point? It'll be really interesting. So I also enjoy Pioneer. For me, it does remind me a lot of like 2015 Modern or something. Modern in the like before the Modern Horizon stuff started coming in, back in the earlier days of the format, which is a really cool place to be. There are a lot of cool things going on. Yeah, there's a couple of decks that are, kind of annoyingly strong. The Nykthos deck, I don't really enjoy playing again. I like all the Nykthos decks except Mono Green. And then Rakdos is it's been at the top of the format for a while. I think, though, we got a Pro Tour coming up. Our first paper Pro Tour back is in February. It's going to be a Pioneer Pro Tour. Maybe we get a shakeup after that. Like, I do agree with you. When Pioneer really suffered a couple years ago, the problem was Wizards not banning aggressively enough. They let the miserable combo decks just take over the format and didn't make any changes for like 6 months. And that came very close to killing the format. It actually really dropped interest in the format. And it took until just this past 6 months for it to really recover. So I do think that Wizards should maybe keep an eye on it. Like, see what these Pro Tour results are. And then if it's not looking like things are changing and nothing new is happening, I guess you also add Phyrexia into the mix. Like, you're going to have the Pro Tour and Phyrexia. And if the meta is the same and green is just as good and Rakdos is just as good, I would rather err on the side of making a change, I think, than waiting too long and risking what happened before, where people just get tired of the decks at the top of the format and stop playing it.
Yeah. And that's why, like, please, Wizards, like, having eternal formats, having people love your cards, outside of standard is good. That also means, like, you should also be monitoring that, especially when you're doing so much tournament support for one of these formats.
And I should say, I don't think Pioneer's bad right now. I do think that Nykthos, the mono green, I just don't like playing against the mono green Devotion deck. The Rakdos deck, at least it beats you fairly. It's probably like the strongest deck in the format, but at least it doesn't like kill you the way that Nykthos does with one big like turn 3 or turn 4 combo kill. And I don't know how you solve that one. That's just, what do you ban? Thoughtseize? You ban Fable? Like, I don't even know how you possibly ban your way out of that issue. So
it could be Fable. I don't know. Like, let me ask you something, Seth. You ever hear of a Final Destination movies?
Yes.
I imagine if there were a new Final Destination, one of the death scenes would just be me playing against mono green. Like, and that would be the most brutal thing. My head would explode. And it would be like it would explode. My hands would go flying off my body and like crazy, just like I am emotionally dismembered right now. Yeah. So please, that I'm just gonna that's where I'm at. You know what I mean? That's where I'm at.
I'm right there with you. Although I think where we differ here is I'm still in the like ban the Karn camp, or like maybe that's wrong. I get what you're saying, that you just gotta. I mean, if you want the Nykthos deck to die, then you ban Nykthos and it's done. I love losing with like mono blue Devotion. It's so much fun to cast my Gadwicks and my Merfolk Tricksters, and I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose that, even though it would greatly increase my win rate. I'm sure if they did ban Nykthos and I stopped playing that deck, but
I wouldn't be upset if they ban Nykthos. I mean, like I promise you, Karn. Like, I think just because like Karn isn't gonna be the end of what makes Nykthos a problem.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. Well, let's keep moving on. We got a couple more formats to get here. This one came up a minute ago. Krim, you mentioned maybe falling out of love with this format, and that format is Modern. Where are you at with Modern in 2023?
Okay, Modern is like this is the one now where it's fading to irrelevance to me, to the point where it's like hitting vintage.
Ooh, wow. Right? Okay.
I haven't had a single thought about Modern. I haven't missed it a single bit, and maybe it's technically healthy, right? But like the patterns of play have been miserable. I don't want to discredit, Modern Horizons, because there were some great things that came from them, but like I don't know, like it's just not fun. It's like legitimately not fun. I don't find me caring about it. I don't find me like, man, I don't even get to play the cards that I like because they're all bad. and I mean, like Jace Modern. The Mind Sculptor is like, oh, whoa, I didn't know you were brewing today. like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know you were bringing your janky deck today. You're bringing Jace. You know what I mean? It's like,
it's true.
And like, Control isn't even like close to fun. The format isn't close to fun. They're like, it's just Monkey, And then there's like all the things that go along with that, and I don't know. Like, is this format still good? Like, I just don't see the appeal of this format. There's not like, and I know like that Control hasn't been good for a while, but the thing is that it was still fun to play, right? And I just don't find that fun. Hammer Time is like getting absurd, which was originally a meme. Murktide Regent, have all these things like running around, but the gameplay just never feels fun. And I don't know. That's so this is my not only is it least improved, it is trending to irrelevance towards me.
Ooh, those are some harsh words for Modern. So I mean, Modern's a tough one. I still love Modern. Although I would also say that the last 6 months, or maybe this past year, has been one of my least favorite times in Modern. I would say it could definitely be better. So I still enjoy it, and it's still a format where there's so many cards legal and you get to do a lot of things. But I do think that we've reached this point where I'm just sick of the really good Modern Horizons 2 cards. Like, they've just been at the top of the format for 2 years now, and I just don't know where we go from here. That's my big concern. What do you print Modern Horizons 3 with like Mega Ragavan that's even more busted? Or like, what do you do about that? I don't think you can ban away those cards. So I still enjoy the format, but I do think that Modern is for me, not fading towards irrelevance, but it's definitely not at one of its high points. I think I would most like to see Wizards unban cards aggressively. To me, it's just silly, like Twin and Pod and some of those things. Like, come on now. Like, living in the world of Ragavan and Urza Saga, like, just free those cards. Like, nothing's going to go wrong.
Yeah. I mean, well, I don't know. Modern died a long time ago. Maybe they were right. Jace the Mind Sculptor killed the format. Yeah. And Stoneforge.
It is Jace's fault. I think if you're a Control fan, though, Modern is a horrible format for you. I don't know the last time I've actually seen like true Control be successful in Modern. It's been a rough period of time for Control.
It has, and outside of that though, it's just been boring. So I play other decks too, right? And outside of Control, I just think it's funny to dust off Control and try to win a game with it. But like the only thing keeping my like fun meter in Modern is Mill. And the one brave merfolk player holding it down, you know, like I see you out there. I don't know who you are, but you're doing God's work out there. You're out there jamming games and you're making it happen. So thank you to you two, the mill community and the merfolk community.
the saviors of Modern. All right, we got one more format that I got to ask you about, Krim. Historic. Where are you at with Historic? Historic, so I used to play it a lot, and then I stopped playing it pretty much altogether. But recently, I've started playing it again, and you run into weird alchemy cards that you've never seen before on occasion, but it's actually kind of fun. For me, this is the comeback format of the year, where all of a sudden I went from not playing this format at all to actively really enjoying Historic again. But where are you at with Historic these days?
I'm kind of surprised you enjoyed it. I'm happy that you are, because I think we talked about this in like a content meeting or something not too long ago. But so Standard really improved, but so has Historic. To the point where I too have been having a blast playing Historic. I mean, like the alchemy stuff, some of them are okay. Like this whole Traveler combo thing. Kind of busted, but like nowhere near the levels of just casually getting charbelchered. So if you ignore just randomly getting charbelchered, which by the way, a lot of people when they come into my streams, they don't even know that you can be charbelchering people. They're just like, "Did you just get charbelchered?" I'm like, "Unfortunately, yes, I did."
It's actually kind of good. Belcher is like better than I thought it would be in Historic,
dude. Right? And you have Dragonstorm. You have all.
Yeah.
It is truly a format though where everything thrives. I have played aggro. I have played control. I literally played slivers, and I mean. Slivers is bad. It's real bad. But like even I get wins with it, right? And like, I mean it's real bad. We don't have crystalline sliver. Okay, anyways. I like this.
You really need the second mana sliver. I think that's what the deck's missing.
Gemstone.
The draws where you have the mana sliver is actually like pretty explosive, but when you don't have it, oh my god. The slivers are so slow.
The slivers are awful because they also don't have a 1-drop, so you can't really sliver
no respect for striking sliver, Krim. Okay, give those slivers first strike.
Okay. Like, but his Historic is really fun. Like this, I was talking about this on my stream. I genuinely enjoy Historic more than I do Modern, and it is Historic is right there, with like like up there with like Standard for me. And I love it so much just because of how wide it is, all the things that are going on. Yes, this includes, I know, before you puke in your mouth, I'm gonna give you a little warning. This includes the alchemy cards. I don't mind the alchemy cards so far. Some of them could be tweaked because, again, Wizards, if you're going to make digital cards, I hope you're willing to patch them like a digital card game would. But yeah, like I think otherwise this reminds me of like early Modern, and it's been fun. There's combos, there's everything to go. Like it's just a good time.
I will say I think Historic is the format with the most archetype diversity right now. You kind of hinted at that, but like you play control, you play aggro, you play mid-range, you play combo. All of those decks are present and actually good. There's good versions of all of those in Historic right now. So yeah, I have also somehow been enjoying Historic the most over the last month or so. It might be the format that I've enjoyed the most, which I never would have believed I'd be saying that or feeling that, but it's actually in a really good spot. I still have issues with how they're handling the alchemy cards and all that. There are still concerns there, but just as far as like sitting down to brew a deck and play some games of Magic, I've just been really thoroughly enjoying where Historic's at. So for me, that's the format that's made the most meteoric rise in the last year, because a year ago at this time, that was like they announced alchemy and all of that stuff, and I essentially just stopped playing Historic altogether for like 6 months. I don't think I played Historic at all, but it's really come roaring back, and it's definitely worth checking out. Like, yes, weird stuff happens, but you have a lot of really fun and interesting games along the way.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing. Like, even when I'm losing, it's just like outside of just casually getting char belchered.
Yeah. that was probably me. I enjoy char belching people.
How are you not playing the Grohl metallic liquid metal coating, LD Ponza deck? I think it's so fun.
Oh, yeah, there's so many cool decks, and that's as weird as it sounds. There's just so many cards to explore because of the anthologies, because of the like jumpstart stuff. There's so many cards in there that really sets it apart from, I think, Explorer. Where in Explorer, I sit down to play Explorer, and it's like, oh god, I'm going to play Nykthos and Rakdos, every other match for as long as I'm playing this. But when I sit down to play Explorer, you really never know what's going to happen. Like, it could literally be anything that your opponent's trying to do. There's some decks you see more than others, but it is so diverse. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that continues to make a comeback. So we're going to talk about Commander and Brawl, but I think we'll save those for like the Commander podcast or something, because we're running a little bit long. So I want to get to some fish mail before we wrap things up today. But Krim, any other thoughts on formats before we answer a fish mail? All right. Well, let us answer a fish mail here to wrap up the cast. If you would like to get your question answered in the future, send it to us on Twitter at mtggoldfish, hashtag it mtgfishmail, and we will answer your questions in the future. So question from Paul Nada at Paul Nada. Arena just sent me my 2022 stats. Can the Goldfish crew share their stats on the next cast? So Krim, I don't know if you got your stats from Arena. Did they send you the email with the stats? I got mine. I dug it out. So I figured it would kind of be a fun thing to share. So Krim, what were your Arena stats this year?
Okay, so I guess to start with games played.
Yeah, how many games did you play? I'm curious. We can compare.
Yeah, I played 5,420. 420. And then so yeah.
Whoa, really? 5,420? I only played 1,435.
I get it. I need to touch grass. I got it. And
I guess you don't really play Moto on your streams or for videos, right? Not very rarely. So that's probably part of it too, that I spend a lot of time on Magic Online as well. What about gold? How much quest gold did you get?
166,000.
Ooh, I got 121,000. I would have expected yours to be higher compared to mine, but I guess you cap out. Eventually you hit all your rewards and that's all you get, so
I also don't care. Like I just do
you ever like respin your quests or anything like that? Do you pay attention?
No.
Yeah, me either.
I just like, I'm like, I'm like, I see this thing is like attack with 20 creatures. Like, why the hell would I do that when I could just like kill stuff?
When I could just play Teferis. You need to play 20 Teferi quests. Actually, with your games played, Krim, what percentage was that? Mine was more than 90% with only 1,435. You had to be like 99% or something.
More games than over 99% of players.
Yes, Krim is the 1% of Arena players.
Yeah, oh god. Also love.
Just
minor note is I love the constructed rank Mythic, limited rank Bronze 1.
Yeah, like, hey, I got to Silver 1 once apparently in limited. So, how about Boosters Open?
Boosters opened. I think mine is like 302 million.
No, that's everyone. It's right up by games played. Actually,
there's
a little. Yeah,
I don't know. It's games played. Where's that? Boosters open.
Boosters open.
1,512. I was like, Jesus Christ, 302 million. I was like, I didn't spend that much.
That'd be so much money.
So Richard.
I'm gonna be sending in some receipts just as a heads up. Mine's only just over 1,000. 1,072. So it's slightly less. Favorite color?
White.
White. Mine was black. Yeah. Interesting. I was expecting you would have blue, and I wasn't expecting me to have black.
To be honest with you, I was expecting me to also have blue, but white. And is that not your picture is also the Wandering Emperor, right?
It is the Wandering Emperor. Okay, yeah. Okay. So I think like, everyone gets Wandering Emperor.
I'm like, is it white? And have I played that much Wandering Emperor? Because it also makes sense. Because as soon as I got the showcase variant on Arena, I just always include Wandering Emperor, the Wandering Waifu in every deck I can. So that's probably why I'm playing white.
What about favorite format? Last one.
Well, funny enough, historic.
Really? I got standard this year. Traditional standard, actually.
Yeah. I normally would get like something standard related, but yeah, like this past year, I guess, has just been historic.
Wow.
And I got 1,237 favorite format wins.
That's actually a ton of historic wins. Do you play mostly best of 1 or best of 3?
Both.
Okay, mixture, yeah. The other thing that stood out to me on these stats that I thought was funny is it has the top wildcard redemption. So these are the cards that were most crafted overall. And a lot of them make sense. Wedding Announcement, Haughty Djinn, Invoke Despair, Fable, Cami of Transient. So either stuff that's like key for a budget deck or just like the ultra staples. But then number 7, Jin Gitaxias, Phyrexian Tyrant. Why in the world are so many people spending mythic wildcards on Jin Gitaxias, Crib? Was that just like unfounded hype when it released? I have not seen a Jin ever, like since Kamigawa released, essentially. Like no one plays Jin anywhere.
Yeah, that's, you know what it probably is? It's probably just because he's a Praetor.
People just want, yeah. I mean, I guess they are pretty iconic. Like, it's an iconic character. It's a Praetor. Historic Brawl, maybe. I guess I jam it in a Historic Brawl deck or whatever. But still, like, I was surprised to see that actually one slot ahead of Sheoldred, which is like the best card in Standard. More people have crafted Jin somehow than Sheoldred.
Jin's cooler.
Jin is cooler. That is true.
Jin does, like, you know, big Timmy things, you know?
Anyway, those are Arena stats. Thank you so much, Palm Nada, for sending in the question. And again, if you want your own question considered for a future cast, send it to us on Twitter, hashtag it at MTG Goldfish and MTG Fishmail. Anyway, I think that brings us to the end of episode 415 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. So, Krim, thanks for hanging out. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And we will be back next week, along with Richard. He'll be back as well, to talk about whatever goes on in the world of Magic. So until then, everyone, have a lovely week. And this is Crew signing out.